Yo, 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 what's up, world? How is everybody doing today? How is my friend Tom? What's going on, Tom?
Not too much, buddy. Not too much. Another day, living the dream. Little not the smartest guys in the room happening. She's in right on time today. I love it. I love to
Wow.
see it.
People missed us. Did they miss that we were off last week?
I mean, I hope so. I I I would hope that they missed us a little bit, that we weren't just completely out of sight, out of mind, that they were like, "Hey, Wednesday doesn't feel quite right." Like, "Oh yeah, that's because I missed not the smartest guys in the room this week."
That's
So, I
true.
mean, maybe.
Hey, that being said, speaking of things that aren't quite right, I mentioned to Tom I didn't get my iced coffee today, so I'm full of piss and vinegar just right off the bat. I can feel that I just want to get angry with somebody.
You're just gonna come in hot with your because you don't have your caffeine and sugar fix for the morning with your iced uh frappuccino or whatever it is you drink.
I'm gonna come in hot. I'm gonna be like, you're out of here. We do winter lumps of coal. We do lumps of coal at Christmas, but the one time in the middle of the summer we did something like that. What did we call it when we handed out things like that in the summer? It was something different. I'm gonna have to go back.
I don't know. We're gonna have to go back in the archives and figure that out. I don't remember. It's hard to. I mean, like, God, we've done this so many times at this point that it's like kind of hard to remember. Like they all start to sort of blur together, you know. And like because we awful like also we talk outside of the show too, and so it's like, oh, we talked about that. It's like, wait, did we talk about that on the show, or did we talk about that outside of the show, or was that like a text, or was that a conversation? So yeah, I don't know, it all starts to blur together. Maybe it's just my middle-aged brain trying to keep track of all the things I have going on, but yeah, it gets tough.
It could be. I want to ask Dr. Tachi or Holly or Steve. So in the wintertime, around Christmas, every season, we hand out lumps of coal. This is things we don't agree with, people that get a lump of coal for the year. Then in the summer, we had a take on that. Does anybody remember what that is? Go on. What should it be?
I
I don't know.
like, yeah, I don't know. What's like, is there an equivalent? Like, did we give out like what is the opposite of like fireworks?
Sunburns. You got a bad
Like
bubbly sunburn today.
water balloons?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we could do that at some point. But anyway, today we're talking strategy, Tom. And 5 minutes of nonsense is not strategy. We should put that in our in our strat. On Not the smartest guys, you're going to get 5 minutes of nonsense before we go into topic every week. So, Tom, we're talking strategy today, business strategy. One of my favorite things when you brought it up, there are people that throw mud at a wall and hope it sticks and think it works. And the next week, it's a new business model, it's a new business, it's a new product. I love talking strategy. You brought the subject up. So lead us, guide us. What do you think? Where were you going?
Well, the specific thing that I wanted to talk about as it relates to strategy is kind of like an operational thing, right? And it's the place that I see in particular, like, right, I live in a sort of in the world of video production, right? I mean, that's what I do. And the thing that I see businesses get wrong over and over and over again is the order of operations in how they approach their strategy and how they execute their strategy. And what I mean by that is I often see brands and businesses invest a lot of money because production is expensive, right? Like, let's be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. What I do is not inexpensive. It is expensive work because it is very labor intensive. It is specialized, right? And just like any other sort of craft that requires a lot of labor that is very specialized, it gets expensive pretty quickly, right? So what we do is expensive, and what I see often with businesses where they kind of the mistake that they make is they invest a lot of money in really expensive production, right? And not necessarily with us, because I don't kind of let this happen with our clients, but with other companies, they'll invest a lot of money in expensive production to create something that looks beautiful, but they haven't put the time in beforehand to really develop a strategic approach to what they're making. And so they end up with a really nice looking, beautiful, high production value piece of content that falls flat on its face, that just absolutely flops because it's all form and no substance. And the reason it's all form and no substance is because they thought that it all started with pretty footage, and it doesn't, right? It starts way before you start recording the pretty footage, way before you pick up a camera and point it at anything. The first thing you have to decide, at least from my approach and my perspective, the first thing you have to decide is who you're talking to, right? And what you're going to communicate to those people and why they should care about what you're communicating to them, right? You have to answer those questions first, and then that will sort of dictate how you shape the content. And then, yeah, if you are doing a good job at applying strategically good development to each piece of the process like that, then yeah, spend some money on making it really pretty, right? On making it look good, on making sure that it sounds good, right? That it is pleasurable to watch, right? Because if it's a good message designed well for an audience and it's good to watch, guess what? People will actually freaking watch it, right? And that's the goal. It's so often brands and businesses spend all kinds of money, tens of thousands of dollars on a piece of content that they haven't spent 5 seconds thinking about whether or not anybody's actually going to want to watch it, right? Anyone in their audience is actually going to want to watch it, right? They often only think about the fact that they're excited to watch it, right? And the problem is you're the business. You're not the target market, right? You're the business. You're not the customer. And so you have to make sure you're making something that your audience actually wants to watch. And often that order of operations is completely backwards, or they just skip the whole first part, the whole pre-production side of things, the whole strategy side, and they go straight to, let's throw a bunch of money at this and make it look pretty, and it falls flat on its face. And of course it does, but then they blame the medium. They go, oh, video doesn't work, right? We tried video, it didn't work. It's like, yeah, it didn't work because you did it really badly, right? Like, of course it didn't work. You did a terrible job, right? That's the problem. It's not the medium. Video obviously works, right? Like, I bet you can't find anybody who hasn't watched a piece of video in the last 24 hours, right? Like, in the last 24 hours of their lives, I guarantee everybody listening to this has seen a piece of video, right? Because if you're listening to this, you're plugged in, you live on the grid, right? The only people that haven't seen any video in the last 24 hours are people who don't have access to it, right? Otherwise, everybody here, everybody listening, everybody who will listen to this in the future, right, has seen a piece of video in the last 24 hours, right? It's not the medium. Video works. It's been proven over and over and over again, right? It works. It's just you're doing it wrong. You're doing it badly. That's the problem, right? So it's your strategy, it's your order of operations that you're getting wrong. It's not the medium's fault. Stop blaming the medium. Anyway, all right.
Yeah,
Off
wow.
my chest.
You had something to say. You came out hot today, Tom. So I feel you. In the book business, in the publishing world, I always, when I look at books, who's reading this? Who's this for? Who? And I'll get angry, like when, to like your point of you getting angry. Who is this for? Who does this help? Why are you writing it? And I want to dig into that deeper, deeper, deeper. And when people can't answer that, who else wins? That's my thing. Who else wins? Who else wins from this product, from this book, from this message? Can you make it so other people win? That I watch Tom's video production that he made and I feel better. I watch Tom's production that he made, I learned something. I'm rewarded in some way. And now because of that, maybe I make some other kind of decision movement. My life is better in some way. So I'm so with you in this, Tom. Let's hear from our friend. Good morning to all. Holly, Steve, how you doing? I see Teresa. I see Jimmy, Lonzo, Foxy, Syed. I see a whole bunch of people here. Thanks for being here. Me and Tom always want to let everybody know that we appreciate everybody who stops for a day, an hour, 10 minutes, goes back and listens to the podcast, anything like that, man. We don't do this without you, without them, right, Tom?
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, at the end of the day, the folks that are here especially the folks that are here every week with us. I mean, obviously welcome everybody in. If you're new, if it's the first time you've listened to Not the Smartest Guys in the Room, first time you've joined us online as we live stream, because we are live streaming right now all over the internet, or the first time you've listened to this in podcast, welcome. We appreciate you. We thank you. But special shout out, obviously, to the folks that have been with us for years at this point, right? Who show up every week, who are part of this community, who join in the conversation, who lend their genius and their insight to the things that we talk about. And I'm talking specifically about, Dr. Tachi, Holly, Steve, Jim's here every week. Teresa's a regular, Beth's a regular, all these folks who join us all the time. We really appreciate you guys. You guys are the reason why we do this every week. So thank you for being here.
Tom, well said. Well said. So let's get to Dr. Tachi. Good morning. And Dr. Tachi, speaking of which, when we did, I made a couple weeks ago, a March Madness business bracketology. And I had this all thought up, and me and Tom were going to decide. And then I thought about this. And if we disagreed on something, we didn't have a decision made. So Dr. Tachi that day was imperative to the conversation because she became our deciding vote. So if you guys don't show up, we would have ties all the time. But we trust in Dr. Tachi. So Dr. Tachi, we're going to ask you today about strategy, business strategy, video content strategy. Does it matter? Do you see people flowing around aimlessly? Does that make you mad? What are your thoughts on content strategy, business strategy?
Well, good morning to everyone. Good morning to all. Yes, it certainly matters. And of course, I'm going to co-sign on what Tom said about video strategy. Definitely. I think that often people are talking to the wrong audience. And what I mean by that is they saw what Susie Joe did. Who's Susie Joe? I don't know. Just go with me on this. They saw what Susie Joe did for her video strategy and it worked. And they said, well, I'm going to do the same thing. Because as Tom said, we're exposed to video messages all day, every day. And so if they did not work, people would not use them. But the thing is, you have to be strategic in who you're speaking to. And you also have to gather some sort of community, right? And that doesn't always mean that you know everybody that's in that community. There is a community. Your customers can certainly be a community. They're not always, but they can be. But to the point that you are actively engaged in trying to have them as part of whatever it is you're doing, that is some sort of ad hoc community. So too many people are too busy trying to have the slick, beautiful video with a message that nobody gives a damn about because they didn't bother to ask. And or they're piggybacking off of the message somebody else used and think it's going to work for them. It could, but you didn't test it. Case in point, I remember at the beginning of the commercial podcasting age, everyone was trying to have a podcast. I remember when I went to NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters. I usually go every year. And this was probably in 2012, was about the marker of the real beginning of the mass age of podcasting. So there had been before that, but people really started hopping on it on then. And so at that point, everybody was doing it. And it's been steadily the same way ever since. But they think some people think because person A has a podcast on the wonders of Coca-Cola, we can do that too, and it's going to work equally as well, and we'll make just as much money. No, you're using video or podcasting for the wrong reasons to the wrong audience. So I think it's really important. And the strategy there should be to get to know your community, get to know your customers and what they want and like and need. And then the video strategy will follow accordingly. You spent no time pre-planning, which is pre-production, and you just went right to shooting with the most expensive camera and equipment you could do. That's absolute rubbish. So take some time, even if it means you don't start right away. Take some time to get to know the problem or the problems of your audience, what they like, what they dislike, what they value, and then follow from there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Dr. Tachi. Big surprise. We're going to go back and forth agreeing with each other here. But yeah, I mean, totally agree with you. it's such a fundamental question, right, for a business. Like, who is your customer, right? Who are you trying to reach? Who is your product for? Right? All of those sort of very fundamental questions. Like, if you don't know the answers to that, like, you shouldn't be in business, right? So, like, it's a very fundamental question, and yet for some reason it is not applied to the content that they produce, right? Or the strategy for their video production, right? They don't think about their customers in the context of that production. And or often the other thing that I see happen is, instead of trying to reach a sort of broader audience than just their ideal customer, they try to sort of like hyper target just their ideal customer and use their content to sell to them, which is also not an effective strategy, right? So, like, I mean, there's a myriad of ways that I see brands and businesses get content wrong all the time. But I think that fundamental missing piece of like understanding who your audience is and creating content that is for them, right, that they will want to watch, is a huge miss for so many brands and businesses. I mean, it's not uncommon. It's almost the default, right, that brands and businesses get that completely wrong. So yeah, totally agree with you there. What do you think, Dom?
I think I want to go to Steve on this as a guy launching a coffee beverage company that mixes with fruits. I want to go strategy right off the bat. Steve, when you launch a company like this, was there a successful strategy you followed, like somebody else's, or what made you decide to take the steps that you're taking? Go on, Steve.
So good morning, and thank you for having me on the stage with you guys. It's really a pleasure to be here and listening and gleaning wisdom as a first time founder and really starter, bootstrapping the company. Learning from people such as yourself and has really been invaluable to people like me. So thank you for your time and giving your space always to people like me. So my strategy is quite simple. Coffee with fruit didn't exist. And so to get people to understand and to know who we were, that was the hard part, right? To actually start to like us and start to trust us, right? We talk about the know, like, the trust all the time, and knowing who my audience was. And I had a target market initially, which then has since broadened a little bit with our different unique beverages. But really it was getting, so I could be live at an event and have that customer be live at the event and sample the product, but they would like it, but nobody else saw that. So literally quite like right out of the gate, I realized I had to do something to show other people that don't just listen to me telling you that coffee with fruit tastes good. I want you to hear it from somebody else's mouth, right? And I take biblical proof of that. Let somebody else praise you and not your own mouth, right? So from my standpoint, I took my camera out and I said, okay, you're trying, for example, pineapple juice with coffee. That's Julie's favorite down in the audience. She's a friend, right? So she's trying pineapple juice with coffee. Tell me what you think. And it's a quick, brief, 7 seconds, 10 seconds. Oh my gosh, that's so good. I can't believe that actually works, blah, blah, blah. And now fast forward to hundreds of videos of creating this community of people that come to my table or farmer's market or festival or fair or whatever I'm doing, that have tried my product or products and have given me this content. And thus we've created this thing we call now Java Twist. So I bring people in. I love people. I want people to be a part of my business. And I bring the content with me regarding that. So I hope that's kind of where I'm going with Java Twist. And I hope that answers your question. I appreciate the time again, Dominic.
Hey, Steve, thank you. Thanks for the kind words and thanks for the tips, man. And this is interesting because he's saying he found something that worked for him for his business, and then he's duplicating and having more people speak on his product, and really a cool way to do it, and it makes perfect sense. So stay the course, and I try to do that as well as a publisher when I can show my authors at events, my authors on stages, my authors holding their books, my authors with a line of people around them. That shows that people that are writing books are out doing good things in the world. And I'm with you, my friend. So, okay, let's see. Before we get to Tom's Thumbs, Holly stepped out. We're going to get to Teresa. As somebody working on a book, how do you know when you're writing? Are you writing for an audience? Have you decided that? Or should you? Go on. Came, she saw, she conquered. Okay.
I was like, Holly's back, so we could hit Holly real quick and then get to
Okay, Holly's launching all kinds of brands, launching a new podcast. So you've got to do your homework on these people. So Holly, strategy. What are you working on? How has strategy helped this launch of a podcast?
Hey, good morning, everyone. I think without a strategy, you're lost completely, but sometimes it's hard to find that strategy and know exactly the best strategy for what you're trying to do. I live in the teaching, writing, coaching, editing, podcast now world. And I find that all kind of integrates. And, as a teacher of 32 years, I realized in a hurry that if I didn't have a good strategy in place, I floundered, therefore my students floundered. So I think I found out early in that career how important it is. And I think keeping your audience in mind, really honing in on that and what it is you're trying to impart, then building your strategy from there is a really big boost to being able to plan strategically. Does that answer the question?
Holly, that does. And I'm watching you do it and be so not meticulous with it, step by step and putting each block in place. So keep up the good work. It's clear. And I see you're working with Dragonfly, so keep up the good work there. They must be doing a good job helping you out. All right, we're back because we weren't here this week and last week, and we're talking strategy today. And now it's the time of the day you've all been waiting for, where we ask Tom thumbs up or thumbs down. He can't give us an in between. I think he did give us a half thumbs up one time and a half thumbs down, and we booed him. But in this case today, Tom, this comes from our friend Jim Ajay. I was talking to him on the phone. We had a few suggestions. He had a few thoughts. Some make you mad, some that might not. And here's what we came down with. What does thumbs up or thumbs down? What does Tom think about Disney now using facial recognition throughout the park?
I hadn't heard about this. What how are they?
They're all over it, man.
Yeah. So all right. So give me the like the Cliff's notes of what's happening so that I can kind of really give it, because I genuinely have not heard about Disney using facial recognition in their parks. So like
okay,
first time I'm hearing about it. So give me the Cliff's notes and then I'll give you a Tom's thumbs.
Okay. From what I'm understanding, what my reading tells me too, and if Jim Ajay wants to come up and weigh in on this, now, from the moment you enter the park, facial recognition can see you in a line. They're using it in all phases of Disney now throughout your trip through the park, not only for security, but also for access to rides and things like that. That's where I'm leaning on this. So, but really the question is, do you believe that facial recognition, is it going too far? People using facial recognition like they're doing at an airport, now they're doing it at Disney.
Yeah. So I don't have a problem with facial recognition software if it is heavily regulated and the data is protected, right? The issue is not, I think it's a bit of a fool's errand, right? To try to put the genie back in the bottle, right? Like the toothpaste is out of the tube, the genie is out of the bottle. Like you can't put it back in, you can't unring the bell. Facial recognition software is out there, right? Like, so you might as well just go bang your head against the nearest brick wall if you're going to argue that nobody should use facial recognition software, right? I mean, it's just it's a waste of time and energy and effort and oxygen to even have that conversation, right? So let's skip over that. Facial recognition software is out there, is going to be used by both governmental agencies and private companies. And I think the big lesson that we should learn from the failure of regulation around social media networks is that we have to do a better job from a regulatory and statutory and legislative standpoint in protecting our data, right? Because we have not done a great job, and people are literally dying because of the way social media uses our data to leverage us for profit, right? To leverage our attention for profit. So it is literally costing people their lives, right? Like it is unquestionably bad. So with all of that in mind, I think we are facing a similar outcome with facial recognition software if we do not enshrine in law strict regulation around the use of it and how the data gathered through facial recognition can be used or aggregated after the fact, right? Like the handling of that data. So I have no problem with Disney using facial recognition software in their parks for security, right? I have no problem with them using it even to create convenience or to tailor the experience to the individual. I think that's actually really cool, and it could make the experience of going to Disney really incredible and really immersive and really unique and really fulfilling for a lot of people, right? But they will only get a thumbs up from me if they maintain really good data hygiene with the information that they collect, right? If they maintain its privacy and then delete it when it is no longer usable for either safety purposes, right? For public safety purposes, or for improving your individual experience in the park. If it is not used in either one of those things, I think they should delete the data, right? And it all should be encrypted and protected, from attack regardless. So if they are doing a good job with the data, it gets a thumbs up. If they are not doing a good job with the data, right? If they're following the sort of meta model and other social media models with the data that has led to people actually being fed content that pushes them further down the path towards suicide, and this is true of some of the chatbots, the AI chatbots, right, that we're all familiar with. There have been cases where people have had conversations with AI chatbots, specifically asking, and this gets really dark, specifically asking for like help and instructions on like how to commit suicide, and actually gotten that information from those chatbots and then gone ahead and followed through on the act. There are some serious ethical issues with this kind of data usage. And so yeah, if they're doing a good job with the data, I'm okay with it. I don't know if I give it a thumbs up. It depends on how they use it particularly, but I'm okay with it. But if they're not being super safe with the data, and I would guess that until there's a regulatory framework in place, they are not. For the time being, I would say I give it a thumbs down.
It started off conditional. You switched it up a few times there. So since Jim Ajay proposed the question to me, and I may not have articulated it correctly, Jim, you get a chance to redeem yourself and hit Tom more directly if you want. So Jim, did you want to clarify the question or just support Tom?
Not necessarily clarify, but one thing they did say is their argument is it's used everywhere. Retailers use it to catch people that are shoplifting. Casinos use it to keep card counters and stuff like that away. And they said they're going to hold the data for 30 days and then delete it. So to Tom's point, that sounds fairly reasonable. They're not using it for anything else. And the other thing that's coming out of this, it seems like, they're using this, it sounds like, as a trial for the Los Angeles Olympics coming up in 2028. So Disneyland is going to be using this to I guess, figure out how to make the Olympics better, which I think that deserves a thumbs up. So I'll land on that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't disagree with you there, Jim. I think the place where I would definitely draw the line is like we cannot rely on the better angels or the best intentions of corporations to keep us safe, right? I think we have seen over and over and over again that when there is a profit motive, that will outweigh public safety and sort of ethical or moral concerns. And so we have to, I believe, from a social perspective, from a societal standpoint, we have to make sure that businesses and organizations and companies, whether they be governmental or private, are held to a high standard, are forced, required, right, to handle the data carefully, to delete it in a reasonable time frame, to not then sell that data off to third parties or to use that data to drive further profit. Because if we leave openings for them to do that, I think history shows that not only will they, but that they will generate profit off of it, and we as the general public will bear the weight of the consequences of those actions, right? And so I think as long as we actually put a regulatory framework in place that holds them accountable and that heavily restricts and clearly curtails the use of that data, I'm okay with it. But until that happens, I still give it a thumbs down.
Good stuff all around. That was Tom's Thumbs. We got PSAs coming. We got Memory Lane coming. We got to hear from more people, though. Teresa, we stopped on you before. We were talking strategy. So as you're launching a brand, as you're writing books, is there a strategy behind it? Are you following somebody else's, or are you still trying to figure that out? What do you got for us?
I'm trying to figure it out. So I think I'm in the right place for you guys to help me out there. Thanks.
There you go. Hang out this place. This is the room for that. I have loved business strategy since I was growing up as a little kid. That was we weren't allowed to laugh at my house, Tom. I don't know if I ever told you that. We didn't laugh till I was like 20 some years old because it was all like business, and my dad worked so hard and things like that. So we talked about business, and then going to college and things like that. We talked about business and being a business owner. We talked about business. So talking about business and strategy, this is, even though I didn't have my iced coffee today, this makes me happy, Tom.
Oh, I like that this is a place you feel you can smile about it, though, right? That you don't have to be like dour and overly serious when you talk about this stuff, right? Because I don't think you do, right? Is it serious? Yes. Is it a weighty, meaningful topic? Absolutely. But does it have to be a downer? No, definitely not. Definitely not. So I'm glad you like it. I'm glad you're enjoying it, and I'm glad that you feel comfortable having a smile on your face and laughing a little bit as we talk about it, even though you weren't allowed to laugh when you talked about it when you were a kid.
Dad was tired. He worked hard. Imagine, like, he was watching the weather. If you cracked a smile, I just played in silence with my little GI Joe guys, and they didn't even make noises. I just thought about what noises in my head they were making. Like, that's how I played with my toys. Okay, we're going. Speaking of business doesn't have to be boring. Julie Loken, this is something you're pretty passionate about. So we're talking strategy. So why don't you weigh in on some of the strategy you're using right now, Julie Loken?
Thank you, Dominick Domasky. And now that explains a lot. You weren't allowed to laugh in your house. I'm so sorry for that, actually. It makes me a little sad.
No, yeah, there was no
Oh,
nuance. My
geez.
dad had been in the army and he worked 20 hours a day. If you think he wanted nonsense, now if he came down on the floor and stuff like that, then I'd get too goofy and
Aw.
yeah, he'd be mad.
Now I'm going to try to make you laugh all the time when I talk to you.
All right, go
Okay.
on, Julie.
Okay. So I am invoking some business strategy right now. I am headed to a conference with our biggest partners, Thrive/Keep. everything is strategy, but there is a difference between strategy and being manipulative. By the way, shout out to Steve. Pineapple Java Twist, the best ever. Yum, yum, yum. Can we all get a big round of applause for Steve and Java Twist? It's amazing. And he was so sweet. He dropped off a case for me when I was in Wisconsin about a week and a half ago. So thank you, Steve. And it is all about strategy. It's about having a business plan. It's about knowing what you're doing, but having a little flexibility within that strategy as well to be a little creative, think outside the box. Because as we know, because Dom and I are in a book club by Dr. Benjamin Hardy, we need to have that big dream, that impossible dream, and we need to drop the floor and do things different within alignment within that strategy. So do strategies. Create a strategy from day one, create a business plan from day one. Don't do it in terms of manipulation or from your ego. Like, don't make it ego driven. Do it and rely on people who've done it before you, get a mentor, and also leave some room for zigs and zags, because there's always zigs and zags for growth. And I am such a big proponent in terms of strategy on building relationships. That is the one thing I know that is a strategy. That is my biggest strategy. And I wonder if Don thinks the same way, because sometimes we have the same brain. Sometimes he wants to just stop talking to me. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Well done, Julie. Julie is big on collaboration, huge on relationships. I'd say that's where, when I watch Julie build relationships with people, we used to call her, early on in Clubhouse, they used to call her the Pied Piper of Clubhouse, because where Julie would go, she had all these loyal friends and followers and supporters. So you're still Pied Piper, Julie. There you go.
So I find it very interesting about the facial recognition. They do that at airports. I think it is so important at these big events now. If you think about the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the security breaches now are so huge. I think they're overriding our civil rights, if you will. I wonder, with Disney, and I just think the world is changing so much. If they can use it in the right way, it's excellent. Is our safety trumping our, sorry to use that word, Trump, sorry, but is it trumping our civil rights? And that's just something, I don't know. I know we probably don't want to talk politics, but I mean, like, the first thing that came to mind was like scanning for background checks for pedophiles in Disney was my first thought. But then you mentioned the Olympics, and then I thought about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. This world is so much different. If we can stop all that stuff, I think facial recognition can be one of those things that deters people. I kind of am for it, which is really weird because I'm never for that sort of thing. I don't know. Maybe Tom wants to jump in. Sorry to change the conversation.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I do have something to say on that. I think the problem is that the solution is not always to expand the security perimeter, right, to encompass everything, right? The answer is not always to throw more restriction on people, right? I think that there are other solutions, broader social solutions, social programs that can help ease some of the things we're saying. But the answer is not always like more police presence, right? It is not more lockdown, right? Because you end up, if that becomes your answer or the answer, and I don't mean you particularly, Julie, I'm kind of speaking in the abstract, right? But if that becomes like the answer for every time there is an issue, right? And you mentioned the White House Correspondents' Dinner, right? If every time there is a security breach of any note or that gets reported, if the answer is expand the security perimeter, create more lockdown space, create more checkpoints, create more restriction, you're on a path to living in a police state, right? And I don't think that's what any of us actually want. And so I would contend that is not the answer, right? That facial recognition can be used responsibly and can be used to protect people. Like, for example, if somebody is not supposed to be in a particular place, like somebody who has, who's restricted from being within a certain distance of a school, for example, right? Then yeah, like it can prove useful in making sure that people who are not supposed to be in certain places don't gain access to those places, right? Especially for nefarious purposes, right? Or people who are restricted, duly, through a lawful process, that we hold them to those restrictions and make sure they don't violate the law. But I do not believe that the answer is to expand the restrictive state, to expand, the security perimeter, so to speak, because you end up very quickly at a place where we're all living in a police state, and that's not a place I want to live. And I don't think it's a place any of us really want to be. So I think we have to be really careful about how we use it, and whether or not we default to, throwing more security at everything, right? So anyway, so that's what I think to your question, Julie. I hope that provides maybe another way to think about it.
So today my PSA is this. I was out with my dad this morning. I took him to the doctor and an appointment got canceled. They didn't let him know the appointment got canceled. There was just some confusion. So my PSA today is, when you're dealing with people that are getting up in age, elderly, our parents, our grandparents, let's give them some more grace. When you're dealing with businesses that deal with elderly people at the grocery store and things like that, give them a little more grace. Maybe set up business strategies. We're talking about strategies today. Maybe set up some strategies that help the elderly. They are your clients. They are members of our community. Other countries spend so much time valuing our elderly. We can do a better job. So my PSA today is offer grace. We can all do a little better. They need us. Thank you. That's what I got, Tom.
I like it. It was good. And I agree. I think, like, often, I'm in a similar boat. My parents are getting up there in years. And it's tough sometimes. Like, people don't take into account that, elderly folks maybe aren't as connected, aren't as technologically adept as some of us. And, as you were telling me before we got on, that, you're helping your dad out, trying to take him to some appointments today. Somebody canceled an appointment without telling you guys, and like, you had spent a lot of time and effort and energy, and it was, it's taxing on your dad to, like, actually, to get him in the car, to get him places, right? It takes energy out of him, and it felt like there was no consideration given to that. And I think, hey, like, just think about who you're dealing with. Like, demonstrate. Maybe the lesson here is demonstrate a little empathy, right? Like, think about other people before you make decisions, or how you think about how your decisions impact other people. Just a thought. But anyway.
Yeah, slow it down. There's a portion of the population. They just need a little more love, a little more care, a little more time. Maybe we shouldn't rush them through everything. Tom, it's time for your PSA.
All right. So this PSA goes out to some people in particular. One person springs to mind that maybe needs to hear this more than anyone else. But anyway, I think it's pertinent. So I was out for a run this morning. On that run, I happened to run by a raccoon that had been killed by a car, presumably. I mean, I didn't see it happen, but there was a dead raccoon on the side of the road. I put 2 and 2 together. I got 4, probably hit by a car. As I was running by it, I looked down at it. And you know what didn't pop into my head? I should get out a knife and cut it up and take a piece of it home with me. So my PSA today is just really straightforward. When you see roadkill on the side of the road, whether it's a raccoon or a bear or any other animal for that matter, just leave it be. You don't need to take it with you. You don't need to cut its head off or any other part of its anatomy. Leave it alone. It's fine right where it is.
There you go, Tom. That was like some heat out of nowhere. I will tell you, and he'd be mad if I admitted this. One day I'm driving down the road with my son, my daughter, and my wife, and there was roadkill on the side of the road. And my son goes, maybe that wasn't roadkill. Maybe it wasn't hit by a car. And we're like, what? What do you think? He's like, there could be other kinds of roadkill. And I'm like, what do you think? It got struck by lightning and laid by the road here? It was roadkill. So then he had to do all this research on roadkill, Tom. So what do you think about that?
I mean, look, again, I'm presuming that it was hit by a car. Like, that is, I'm following, the principle of Occam's razor, right? The simplest explanation is most often the correct one. And so that was the conclusion that I came to, regardless of how it died. I think the bigger point is you don't need to cut off any part of it and take it with you. And doing that is, let's be honest, super freaking weird. It is super weird and it is not okay, right? So like, whoever you are, anybody listening, if you know anybody that's done that, maybe you've met them, maybe you haven't, you could send this their way in case they need to be reminded. But it's okay to not cut up dead animals and take them with you, right? That's weird. And if you feel compelled to do that, I would go so far as to say, maybe you should go talk to a professional about it.
Tom, in some states you're allowed to like go pick up roadkill in like certain amount of times and things like that. People are like going down the street getting the fresh roadkill so they can eat it.
Yeah, well, all right. So there are instances where I think that there is some value here, right? So for example, we all know I spent a bunch of time up in Alaska for work, right? I worked up in Alaska, lived up in Alaska for a couple of years. My wife and I met in Alaska. And one of the programs that I worked on, one of the television programs that I worked on, based around the railroad in Alaska, right? And one of the things that happens on that railroad, particularly specifically runs between Anchorage and Fairbanks. And one of the things that happens is moose get hit by trains relatively frequently for two reasons. One, because it's hard to stop a train, right? And so if there's a moose on the tracks and the moose doesn't move, like you're going to hit the moose. The other reason is that moose tend to like to walk on the tracks because there's very little snow there. Right. So there might be feet of snow off the tracks or in the woods, but on the tracks and right around the tracks, there's very little snow. And so moose get hit by trains a lot. What they do is there's actually a couple of volunteer organizations that will go out and will harvest the meat from a moose that's hit by a train, right? The train company, the railroad company reports it. These volunteers go out, they collect what's left of the animal, they salvage whatever meat they can, and then they donate that meat to local families. So in cases like that, I think that's a great use, right? But that is not the same as like stumbling across a raccoon on the side of the road and cutting off its reproductive organs so you can, quote, study them later. Like that's just weird behavior. It's not okay. And you should go get professional help if you feel compelled to do that.
That is fair, Tom. That sounds like some old school Jeffrey Dahmer stuff. So I hear you. And I mean, if you were going to put like a wellhead on the top of your car, I mean, that's probably weird too. Right? Okay. So Tom, we go into memory lane. What do you say?
Yeah, I think so, bud. Let's go memory lane. Let's see what you got.
Okay. Today I got something special for you. My baseball pirate flag is still flying in front of my house. I wonder if your young daughter, if she's going to play baseball, because so many people do. Although there's all these other sports, it seems like baseball brings the youth in better than any other sport. And I was talking to my daughter about that because she plays lacrosse, and one of her games, the little kids from lacrosse were there, like future programs. And she was like, well, baseball does it so well. Baseball does it better because there's T-ball. So today I wanted to share you a picture of a young Dom when I played T-ball, baseball, before I found many other loves and still find many other loves in my life. Here it is, Tom. This is me in all my glory. Even back then, my teeth were oversized for my body. You see, I was in fighting shape here. I played for Maxwell. They were quite the organization that made me so talented. But baseball sport, beautiful thing. Getting the youth involved in these things early on gives them confidence, helps them build teamwork, leadership, all kinds of stuff like that. So, Tom, for memory lane, all I had was this beautiful little picture of handsome me.
I love it. It actually, talking about that, and you said, I don't know if your daughter's going to play baseball. I saw a video this morning about a young woman from New York, grew up in Queens. Her father is from the Dominican Republic. I don't know if her mother is from the DR as well, but her father's Dominican. He grew up playing baseball, was really into baseball. He taught her baseball as a young kid. She played baseball through her childhood. She made the varsity baseball team in 7th grade as a pitcher. She's really good. And in 2023, she became the first woman to pitch in Division I collegiate baseball at Brown University when she made her pitching debut there. Her name's Olivia Pichardo. And I just thought that was a really cool story. It was interesting, that you asked, you said, I don't know if your daughter's going to play baseball. I don't know if she is either. Right now, she's just shy of 2 years old, and she's super excited about slides. So I don't know, she doesn't have the coordination for baseball yet. We'll see, I'll let her choose the sports that she finds most interesting and wants to go after. But yeah, there is the opportunity. What's really cool about, raising a daughter now is that it is absolutely possible for her to play baseball if she wants to. And I think that's really cool. And, hats off to women like Olivia Pichardo and so many other women like her who have broken down those barriers and created opportunity that your daughter and my daughter will be able to take advantage of that was not available to people to the women who came before them. So I really appreciate that. And I think it's super cool. And who knows, maybe someday Isla will be pitching Division I baseball. You never know. Anything's possible.
Well said, Tom. Good job. Okay, Tom, usually we call this the wrap up, but today I think you deserve more love. It should be called the finale because it's so special. What do you got for us today?
I think I'm just going to keep it really simple. We've talked about a lot of things today. We've kind of run the gamut. We're creeping up on the hour here. So I'm just going to keep it really straightforward, really simple, and cut out a lot of nonsense from it. And I'll just say this. When it comes to formulating a strategy for whatever you're doing in business, whether it's launching a product, launching a book, trying to grow your business, trying to bring in new customers and clients, right? To grow your audience base, whatever the case may be. The first thing you should always do is sit down and either literally or figuratively plan out the path that gets you to your goal, right? Before you do anything, right? I'll go to like the old school analogy, and I'm going to date myself here because I have no other way to do it. But when I was learning how to drive, was before, satellite navigation was a common thing that was available to everyone, right? So we didn't have GPS navigation in our cars. My parents bought me when I first started to learn how to drive, they bought me an atlas, right? A road atlas that specifically covered the couple of counties around where I grew up. And they taught me how to use that atlas. And whenever I was going to go somewhere, I had to sit down and I had to plan my route, right? What road I was going to take, what turns I was going to make, how I was going to get there. And there's always more than one way to get there. So you have to decide along the way what's most important to you. Do you want to drive fast? Do you want to take the shortest route? Do you want to take highways over local roads? Or do you want to go the scenic route? Whatever the case may be, there are lots of decisions to make. But whatever you're trying to do in business, before you actually get in the car and start driving, plan out your route carefully with thought out, informed decision making, driving that planning. And then once you've planned the route, you can get in the car and start driving. And you don't have to adhere to that route blindly, right? Like you can change that as you go, but you absolutely have to have a planned route in advance of setting out on any journey. And so that's the lesson I'll leave everybody with today. I think whatever you do, whatever you're doing in business, wherever you're going, wherever this life takes you, just spend a few minutes to plan the route to get there. That's all I got for this week. I appreciate all of you. Dom and I appreciate all of you. We thank you for being here. We thank you for being a part of the community. You are the reason why we do this every week. We're sorry that we disappointed you last week by not being here, but we're so glad you came back this week to spend some time with us. Thank you once again. For Dom, I'm Tom. We are not the smartest guys in the room. We love you. We appreciate you. And we will see you soon. Until then, have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. Bye-bye.